Today, we're on an emissions mission with quick fixes on how to pass a sniff test, plus how to bring out the old in a new paint job. That and more today on Truck Tech.
We're going to answer a question that we get asked more often than you would think, and we've all dealt with it. It has to do with that annoying light that rears its head on your dash, the dreaded check engine light.
Many of us live in areas that require annual emissions inspections, and if your truck has higher miles or a mechanical problem that has the check engine light come on, well, that usually results in an immediate failure. But a lot of vehicles can actually fail an emissions tailpipe test without the check engine light even coming on.
And while many of the projects we do here on Truck Tech are performance-oriented, we always strive to stay within the letter of the law with mods that are 50-state legal. But if you have failed an inspection, we'll show you a few things, try to help your vehicle pass.
This thing's bone stock. I don't think it'll pass anything.
Boring, man.
Now, this is our test bed, a 2001 Dodge Ram 1500, and we know it failed its emissions test some 18 months ago. So we're going to show you what we have to do to take care of that. So we drove it down to a local repair shop to get a baseline reading on the tailpipe to go from there. Then we'll bring it back to the shop and start replacing parts to get this thing running a little bit cleaner.
This is Gary Davis, owner of Davis Automotive.
Hey,
man, thanks for having us in your shop.
to meet you.
How often do you typically have customers come in that have failed the required emissions test? And not only that, what are usually the most typical causes of failure?
We have quite a big number of emissions failures that require different types of diagnostics, different types of repairs. Today's vehicles seem to be more complex than they ever have.
Right.
They've evolved into emission standards being a lot tighter than they ever have been in the newer models. Requires a lot of different type of equipment to be able to diagnose it.
Right. So usually customers come in, they failed, you check it with your machine, you guys do the repair work, check it again. Gotta know you're gonna pass and then send it back out to have it.
Correct. We can't certify the vehicle in Tennessee. It has to be certified by the state. More commonly on today's later model vehicles, 96 and up, is the OBD2 systems, which are computer controlled. The computer on the vehicle actually monitors and passes the emission components on the car.
Right. Well, all right, man, let's check out your machine.
All right.
It's been around here for a while, huh?
This is a dinosaur, but it's been a good old faithful machine. It's a 4-gas made by Sun. We've had this machine about 18 years.
Well, what do you say we make a run?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. I'll start the truck. To provide accurate readings, the truck must be running and up to typical operating temperature in order for the gas analyzer to read accurately. Then at idle, Gary inserts the wand into the tailpipe, and we'll know within a few seconds how bad this truck is emitting hydrocarbons.
Okay, classic example of fail. We've got HC that is off the charts here. This should be a maximum of 220. Actually, the CO is within limits. So we're not getting a complete combustion is the reason our HC is so high. We've got an ignition problem, most likely. We're not getting enough of the fuel that's going through the engine process and completely burned.
Well, looks like we've got some work cut out for us, and thanks for giving me some really bad numbers.
My pleasure. Good luck.
Thanks, man. Now, we don't condone this, but you want to know how the owner was able to drive around for about 1.5 years with expired tags?
How's that?
Drop the tailgate.
It works.
Can't see it.
The first step to solving our problem is finding out the cause of our check engine light, and that means we'll need a code reader of sorts. Now, there's many different options out there on the market, and some are very affordable. Heck, there's even some out there that'll pair up with your smartphone. Now, on all vehicles sold in the United States after 1996, there'll be an OBD2 port located underneath the dashboard, usually somewhere around the steering column. And we're going to fire up our scan tool and see if we can find the cause of the problem. Every scan tool is different, but typically you have to input your truck's year, make, and model. Once in the engine control module screen, read the DTCs. There's 4 codes that came up on this truck, and the first 2 are hopefully related, maybe to a wiring problem near an injector or something like that. The injector shut off and it'll cause a misfire. The 3rd code is for a leak in the evaporative emission system. Usually that could be caused by a loose gas cap. Maybe we'll get lucky. We'll see. And the 4th code, that means the engine is running too cold. We'll maybe check the thermostat and see if it's stuck open or something. But first, we're going to trace down this leak in the evaporative emission system. A quick inspection of the gas cap shows it's already tight and it doesn't look like the problem is here, so we better keep looking. The evaporative emission system on this truck starts at the engine and it works its way all the way back to the fuel tank. And the purpose is to remove excess fuel vapor from the tank so it doesn't escape to the atmosphere and cause pollution. Now there's a lot of components involved in the system, but most of them are connected by rubber hose. And on this truck, well, it's 15 years old, so there's a pretty good chance a lot of that hose could be damaged. Two major parts of the evap system are the purge solenoid and the leak detection pump. And straight away we can see this hose going from the pump to the tank has several cracks on it and it's split down the back. So that's definitely going to cause a leak. So we'll start by replacing this hose. The old hose is held together with several others. So I'll cut the tape and follow the hose down to its connection to the plastic tube that runs all the way to the tank. Slide on the new hose, zip tie it in place, and trim to proper length. With the truck up in the air, I'll follow the plastic tube down the frame rail to make sure there are no other bad spots. And sure enough, on top of the charcoal canister, we found more cracks. To make the repair, the canister comes off, and it's a simple matter of replacing the dry rotted hose with a new one. Make sure you buy a hose that's rated for fuel vapor.
Later, why are the guys sanding through a brand new paint job?
With our leaky evaporative emission system taken care of, that's one of the 4 codes checked off our list. So next we'll turn our attention to the engine running too cold. Gasoline engines are most efficient at their full operating temperature, which is usually around 200 degrees Fahrenheit. So your computer will keep an eye on this and let you know if something's up by turning on the check engine light. Now, the colder your engine runs, the more fuel it's going to use. So being at full temperature is pretty critical, both in terms of fuel mileage and emissions output. The likely culprit is the thermostat is stuck open. It's letting too much coolant escape the engine too quickly and it pulls away too much heat. We grabbed a new one and we'll get this thing swapped out in no time. There's a couple brackets to move out of the way to gain access to the water neck. 2 bolts hold it down, and once it's removed, the thermostat can be pulled out and the old gasket's cleaned up. The new thermostat drops right into place, along with a new gasket. Put it all back together, and top it off with coolant. Well, that's 2 codes down and 2 to go. But check out what I found. The connector for fuel injector number 3 was actually disconnected. So I spoke with the owner of the truck. And it turns out right before we took the truck in to do our testing, he had the engine bay detailed. And likely during the cleaning process, the connector just became dislodged. Really not a big deal. But it was the cause of both of those DTCs. A fuel injector being disconnected will cause the misfire code, and it will also cause the open circuit code. So we got lucky. It'll actually also cause the higher hydrocarbon output at the tailpipe. Plug that boy back in. Now we can go ahead and clear those 4 trouble codes. But we're not done with this truck yet. Before we take our truck out for a test drive, we figured this would be the perfect opportunity to address some of those regular maintenance items that often get neglected. And all the parts you see here, we picked up from rockauto.com. Our truck has over 200,000 miles on it, and we don't know when the spark plugs were replaced last. So we figured this would be a perfect opportunity to throw in a new set. And we'll round out the ignition system with a new distributor cap and rotor. An air filter is one of those items that people often neglect to replace, but it's super easy and it's really inexpensive. So we're going to throw one of those in along with a new PCV valve. And to round out our high mile truck, we'll throw in a pair of oxygen sensors. But what exactly do they do? Your engine's computer has been calibrated by the factory to deliver a very precise fuel mixture. Now, the ideal ratio for combustion of a gas is known as stoichiometry. And for gasoline fuel with 0% ethanol, that ratio is 14.7 parts air to 1 part fuel. Now, your engine will run pretty close to this right out of the box, but given variations in altitude, density, and temperature, the variation will be slight. It won't be exactly spot on. So oxygen sensors are installed in the exhaust stream and they'll report back to the computer whether that ratio is rich or lean of its target. The computer then uses that information to make adjustments to the fueling, and those are known as fuel trims. The primary oxygen sensor is the most important. It directly controls the fuel trims, so having a new one will make sure your mixture is spot on. The secondary O2 sensor is important, but it has no impact on engine fueling. It's simply there to monitor the performance of the catalytic converter. Now I can go ahead and do a quick oil and filter change using Royal Purple Synthetic High Performance Motor Oil. This will provide superior wear protection and increased engine performance.
Next, how to create a fauxtina paint job.
Now, I've been teasing you guys for a little while now about the patina paint job I've had planned for the C10, and the time is finally here to lay it all down. Now, all the body panels were in pretty decent shape, and after doing a little digging on the cab, I found that the truck had only been painted one time through the years. Now, that's good for us because it means we didn't have to strip anything down to bare metal. Now, for the patina, I want the truck to appear authentic, like it's still wearing its factory paint that's just been beat down by the sun. And I'll show you guys step by step how to accomplish this. Now, I went ahead and scuffed all the panels up and laid down this red-brown primer, which is close to what the truck would have come with from the factory. Now, we can get started with base coat. Summit Racing Flame Red Base mixes 2-to-1 with reducer and takes a cap full of clear coat activator for every 32 ounces mixed. I'll do a quick check on the wall and make sure the gun is all set up. Now, this particular base sprays really nice at around 30 psi. And since I plan on sanding through a lot of this new base coat for the look we're going for, I'm only going to lay down 2 coats, keeping it thin. So I'll move a little quicker than normal. And where the sun would have baked on this truck the most, I'll barely cover the top of the bed rails and of course the hood, since these areas will appear most weather beaten. Okay, we've got 1 coat down, and I'm gonna try something a little different on the hood. Now, when the truck was painted at the factory, they usually use like a 50% overlap, consistent passes. Well, obviously, when you overlap paint, some areas will be thicker than others. So as the years go by and the sun beats down on the hood, it's gonna eat away the lighter spots first, leaving a streakiness. I'm gonna mimic that on this hood. I've let the base coat sit for a few hours, so we're ready to start sanding on it. Now, right out of the gun where I kept it light, we've already got a pretty cool patina going, but I want to take it a little bit further. Now, when I do these types of paint jobs to get this effect, there's a few steps that I go through. I'll start off with 400 grit paper, swap to 6, and then I finish off with 800 grit. So, go ahead and get started with 400 grit, a little bit of water. I like to use a soft block hitting all of the places the sun would have beat down on the truck. And if any of you guys have ever sanded on base coat, you know it will clog up your sandpaper pretty easily. So a good tip when doing this is add a couple of drops of soap to your water. It will help sand a little easier and keep your sandpaper clog free. And I'm sanding in a sweeping motion the length of the panel. I'm not using the common X pattern like you're probably used to hearing me talk about. After all, we're not going for perfection here. Now, we can go ahead and lose the block, swap over to 600 grit, and there's no rules for what you can do here. There's many ways to accomplish this. It's just whatever you're looking for.
But you're telling me if I see bare metal, I've gone too far?
Don't go to bare metal. Well, you know what? I guess if you do go to bare metal, real patina then, right?
How hard is this to spot in?
We'll just let it rust over. I'll tell you one, this is my favorite type of paint job. I didn't have to do any body work. This is pretty simple to do. Go online and look up some vintage original trucks and see how they've aged. You'll see that there are a lot of common areas on these trucks that are faded down to primer, and you can try to mimic that look or just do whatever looks cool to you.
Will our Dodge pass emissions? Find out next.
We're back on Truck Tech in the home stretch, completing a fauxtina paint job on our C10. I'll swap to 800 grit and go back over the areas where we got down to primer. Of course, we're faking 30 years of sun wear. We just don't want it to look fake. I think I would refer to this paint job as a California patina. Truck with no rust, just been beat up by the sun a little bit, always in good weather.
Do you prefer the 20 or the 30-year vintage, though? I prefer the 30-year myself.
We'll go with 30-year on this.
It's a good vintage.
I'm using the original primer color underneath and the flame red base coat to age this truck as if it had just been painted one time. But what if your truck already has really nice paint? It's good and straight, and it's the color you want. Well, then you don't want to take the time and sand the whole truck down and put it all in red primer like I did. There's an easier way to do it, and I'll show you how on this fender. With the panel ready, I'll rattle can a couple of coats of red primer over the areas you know the sun would have eaten up the paint. Once cured, use the same sanding steps I showed you with the other method. By wet sanding with 400, then 600, and finish with 8. And there you go. Just like that, you have the same look, just reversed, but no one will ever know the difference. With everything back in the booth, we're ready for clear. I'm using Summit Racing's Hot Rod Satin Clear. It mixes 4-to-1 with an activator. Now this clear will keep with the authentic look we're trying to achieve. It will also give the truck good UV protection. So we're able to have that old look, but with a very durable finish. I'll finish up by laying down 3 coats.
Before we send our 2001 Ram down the road for its final emissions test, we're going to pour in a bottle of Royal Purple Max Clean. It's a high-performance synthetic fuel system stabilizer and cleaner. It works by deeply penetrating the intake valves, fuel injectors, and combustion chambers. You can use it on gas or diesel engines, and it improves fuel economy an average of 3.2%, while at the same time improving horsepower. And one 20-ounce can treats up to 20 gallons.
It doesn't matter how big or small your cleanup job is around your garage. Gunk all-purpose cleaner and degreaser can handle it. It's highly concentrated, which means you can dilute it down 35-to-1 for light-duty surface cleaning. Or like on this filthy firewall, spray 1-to-1 right out of the bottle for heavy-duty jobs. It's safe on most surfaces, including plastic and aluminum, is non-toxic and biodegradable. Gunk all-purpose cleaner and degreaser is available at your favorite automotive retailer.
Having a tool that can perform more than one job saves you time and money. This is the Miller Multimatic 215, an all-in-one multi-process welder that'll do flux core or gas-shielded MIG along with DC stick and TIG. It delivers up to 230 amps of power for MIG welding projects, or swap to an electrode holder for stick welding, or even add a torch for TIG welding. The color LCD display provides easy setup, and this machine delivers excellent art quality and minimal spatter. Visit MillerWelds.com for more.
Lighting up the night around your pickup or SUV is easy with Rigid Industries' new line of Ignite Series LED lights. 1,000 raw lumens are packed inside of this tiny 1.5-inch housing, and mounting is made simple with any off-the-shelf GoPro mount. They operate at 6 to 28 volts and draw less than 1 amp per light. Varieties include flood, spot, and diffuse beam patterns. They're available in singles, doubles, motorcycle kits, and backup lights. Visit rigidindustries.com for more.
With the last coat of clear finally dry, we'll roll the C10 back into the shop, throw on the bed, and throw on a front fender so we can take a step back and admire our work.
Well, we've made a huge dent in our C10. We've got the truck all patinaed out, and it's looking really cool. I even showed you guys a couple of different ways you can get this effect. Now, what I really like about this paint job is it's really easy to do, and it's very inexpensive. So, hey, if you don't like it, it's all right. You can go back, do a little more, or paint the truck solid if you want to.
Absolutely. This is just another one of those projects. I mean, this whole truck has been something you can do at home without that many special tools. But hold on a second.
What do you got over there?
Check this out. Got some new jewelry in.
Oh, man.
20-inch rally replicas.
Yep, original look, more modern size, man, that'll look good.
Absolutely.
I hope you've ordered a lot of tires because we're gonna need them.
Definitely. So how did we do on our emissions mission? A retest on the gas analyzer registered well below the 220 maximum for hydrocarbons. Mission accomplished.